like to welcome everybody to our committee meeting. It was moved till Monday because graduation is tomorrow night. And before we get started, Dale brought some contraption that he'd like to explain to us what he's going to be doing and using it for.
I have had more feedback in the last couple months by far than anything else in my entire time in the 10 years on the board here. And every time somebody says something to me about, Snyder, good job, what you're doing, I always say, you need to come to a board meeting and tell us that. And as soon as I say that, their face just glazes over, and people are intimidated in coming to these meetings. So that has motivated me to try something that I've been thinking about doing for a long, long time. And it starts with this little recording device here is a digital recorder that should pick up everybody's comments without any problem, without needing microphones and stuff. And if I can end up with a good recording, I'm going to explore some ways just having, as an elected official, having some kind of a website or blog or something where I can post stuff. And even, I don't know that I'll post the entire meeting just in one thing, but I want to make a recording, see how it works, and fool around with that. So just wanted to let everybody know. If anybody has a problem with that, let me know.
Great, thank you. And now we have a special award to Morgan Bender, our student rep. This award is presented to Morgan Bender in recognition of your dedication, support to the Northern Lebanon School District. We are proud of you and your accomplishments while serving on the Northern Lebanon Board of School Directors. Thank you for your time and effort to make our board and your school district a great place to learn and achieve. Thank you. Normally we don't have public comment at our committee meeting. We save that for our regular meeting, but I see some new faces out there, and I didn't know if you came to speak to the board or if you just came because they invited you to come.
I live in Gillstown. I was here last year with some problems I had that we resolved. Everyone comes here is generally negative. Well, what I consider negative. But today, I come to talk about Mr. Langer. He's a middle school English teacher. My one stepdaughter has him in class, and this guy has gone above and beyond to not only help her, but to help us at home. The guy emails us the assignments days prior. As soon as he comes up with them or knows what he's going to do, he will email them. At some point, I would ask my daughter a couple times, did you get this work done yet? She said, she didn't understand what I'm talking about. So right away I go back, email the teacher, say, hey, the kid don't have a clue what you're talking about. And he would say, well, she's not gonna because I didn't give the assignment yet. That's how ahead of the game on some of the stuff this guy was. I never met him. I've only ever emailed and talked to him various times throughout the year. So I basically want to come tonight to just say this guy did a terrific job, not just the last month of school, not the first 3 months, and then said, okay, these guys are on their own. It was virtually every day, every month through the year, he was there, emails, phone calls, things like that. He never slacked one day. So I just wanted to recognize him in front of the board. And on the positive note, going over to the negative side this morning, I had a rough morning with school buses, and it's getting worse. I know the state of Pennsylvania didn't ban cell phones with the bus drivers yet. There's 19 states that currently have a ban on bus drivers using cell phones. Talking with cell phones, why they do a rolling stop sign, is it a cell phone or is that just their driving habits? I don't know. But today there was a lady, as I come to drop mail off, she was coming at me and looked like she was speaking something. And I stopped and I was looking up at her. She had one of those headset things on, which I don't understand if you're driving a bus why you'd worry about wearing a headset. Maybe it's a piece that she wears all the time. You see people in Walmart with these on, I don't know. But to me, you'd be accepting a phone call if you have that head device on. What really disturbed me is I called the office from transportation, and this is the third time I called this year, and all three times Mr. Zellers was never readily available to speak with. I called a bus driver that no longer drives in the district, and she said that's pretty common because he does his own runs in the mornings. And she said one time she had a problem with a parent getting on the bus, and it took 2 hours until this problem was resolved because he had to finish his route. So I talked to the lady on the phone. She did a great job of trying to appease me and everything else, and then she said, well, we have administrators here that you can talk to. So I transferred to the superintendent's office to try to speak with somebody, and I got a receptionist again. So I don't know who the administrator was she was implying to was here, but I could get a hold of nobody that had any kind of executive power to basically make a decision at that time. I just feel when Mr. Zellers' buses leave, at that point he should be ready and available to answer any questions or accommodate anybody with any kind of problems. And every time I tried this year, it's been sometimes 2 days until he got back to me with concern. So I just wanted to address that. The cell phone thing, I have a daughter next year going into kindergarten in East Hanover, and I'm kind of a little frightened by the whole talking on the cell phone. My one daughter rode the activity bus home. She said the minute she got out of onto this road, the lady picked the phone up and talked the entire way to the Ono post office. I think that's where she got dropped off. So she was on the phone the entire time. I realize there's no state law, so they can't be, but I was told that in the handbook or agreement that they signed, it does say they will not be on cell phones. And it's not what I'm seeing in the mornings. In the afternoons, I'm not around. In the morning, I've seen a few here and there.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come in and address the board. So thank you. Anybody else out there? Okay. Now we'll move on to our items to discuss and management committee.
Okay, management committee, item A. Item B. Item C. Item D. Item E. I think we need to talk to the water authority. Item F. Item G.
Question on because there's a bunch of these, I guess the next 4. So are these are temporary professional employee, is that like a long-term sub position?
Untenured. That's the state's definition for untenured, temporary professional employee.
Okay, so they're temporary, so they still get all their benefits then under this?
That is correct. It would be a full-time teacher.
Okay. So,
I'm talking G and H if it says temporary professional.
right. Yeah, because I guess, they do have the so are these positions that we are now filling from the people that have retired?
Item G would be in the business department where we actually had 2 individuals leaving this year. We were only replacing 1.
Okay.
And elementary emotional support is when we took the class back from the IU.
Okay.
So what you basically have in relationship to taking back an IU is this. Rather than us paying the intermediate unit to employ the teacher, we can employ the teacher, making them hours for a lower cost. And that's when we took the class back, we would need to hire an instructional person.
Okay.
Item H. I and J, kind of together. And K. Then we have, we work on
Interview process.
and then all kind of together. Any questions on those four?
When we met to go over the agenda, you did a great job of explaining this to me that you said item M, we do this every year, that's kind of,
That's correct.
to get an extra half a day, or an extra kindergarten class at Joestown, right?
That's correct.
And then, what were you telling me about, was either L?
No, item N ties in with another item that's up at the beginning. I think it's D. So what we're
Yeah.
doing is approving leave and then filling those people for their leaves.
So we're not really adding additional positions?
No.
We're just.
Item L is a grant, title grant position that's done every year.
So as long as
Let's
we
go
agree,
with
we'll
those.
keep doing that.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, item O is the new position.
Right.
Hopefully by August we have names.
Not even, we should have them next time.
Oh, next week.
Yes.
Can I'm sorry about this, but can I go back to the first set?
With the H.
Yeah, the G. These positions, are they currently, like in G, is that person currently in this position and we're just extending another year?
No.
Or is this a
new
brand new
person.
position?
No, not a brand new position. We have two positions where people are leaving in the business department. This individual is a new person replacing one of those two positions. The other one has been absorbed.
Okay. I was just under the impression that we were going to, in order to control costs, have long-term subs fill these positions until we weathered this economic storm. Did I misread that?
That was only for the current year. You can't do that. You can't just bring in long-term subs to fill positions.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Back to CHIJ, and then we are back on L through O. Any L through O issues? Okay with that? I'll let them know.
I'd like to have some quality time to discuss this. And I'd like to explain why. Because obviously it's no surprise that I have some reservations about the budget here. So I have a lot of understandings in my head about what we're doing, and I just want to clarify and confirm before we do the final vote, and I find out later that I was misunderstanding something or whatever. I want to start by reading something that came from PSBA, and this is a survey by the Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators and Business Officials. So do you get these, Dr. Bell, surveys? And it basically says 3/4 of the survey respondents said that they will furlough or not fill vacancies in their districts for 2012-2013. So we're certainly not alone with what we're doing for next year. And it also says more than half said that a wage freeze was in place in the current year, 2011-2012. And we would fit into that, I believe, because it doesn't say, it just says a wage freeze, so there's all kinds of different employment groups and stuff. And my understanding is that we do have a wage freeze in place with our administrators right now. So is that correct, Dr. Bell? The administrative staff, the Act 93 group, would have been eligible for a 4% increase, but led by you folks came forward and said you can freeze our pay for the current year.
In the current year, that's correct.
So that's going on, and you've railed against politicians that took it but then gave it back, so there's nothing like that going on. This is a true pay freeze, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then with the classified staff, they were also eligible for a 4% increase, but they took a 2% increase instead, correct? And that's for the current year.
Generally overall, yes, but you need to remember that in classified staff, you've placed a cap at the top. Any classified staff member that gets to the top, regardless of the year, will not receive a full pay increase. It will only be half.
Right. But everybody that would have gotten a 4% increase got a 2% instead,
That's correct.
for the most part. And then our professional staff, they were also in line for a 4% increase, which they did get, but they also agreed to work 5 days less and get paid for 5 days less. So the net increase for the professional staff is somewhere in the range of 1.3%, something like that, wages. Am I correct with that?
I don't know. The agreement was to freeze the salary matrix, but permit people to transfer a year worth of experience as well as academic advancement.
But isn't that freezing of the salary matrix for next year? Wasn't the wage adjustment? I thought the wage adjustment was inserted. And
There was a
then,
wage adjustment, that's correct, that was over a 2-year period.
The way I like to look at it is we got a 1-year pay freeze, but we took it over 2 years.
well,
Like a half a pay freeze 1 year and the other half the second year.
all right, well, that's one of the things I wanted to just clarify here. And the other thing, it goes on next to it, fund balance debate. And I wasn't aware that there was a fund balance debate going on, but here's what it says, and I'll read it word for word. It's just one paragraph. It says, it has recently been suggested by some Republican lawmakers in the House that school districts are amassing large cash surpluses while raising taxes. According to a news release issued by the legislators, as of June 30th last year, school districts statewide were sitting on more than $3.2 billion with a B, and that, quote, it is infuriating to find that many of the state's school districts that are crying poor and blaming the state for their fiscal problems are sitting on surpluses, unquote. The legislators also noted that, quote, when they hoard these large reserve balances, they tend to spend it on things they don't need, end quote. At the same time, the governor's office issued a news item calling for citizens to, quote, find out if your school district has money in its reserve fund it could use to offset its increasing costs, end quote. We don't have to be concerned about that kind of problem coming from
I wish we were.
our constituents and the people that help pay for everything here. So I just thought that was interesting to see that. The last time this board did have that decision to make was January a year ago when we voted on the initial budget for this current year, and we voted 8-1 in favor of not increasing taxes, but essentially we ended up using up the rest of our ending fund balance rather than increasing taxes. So anyway, that's just getting to the budget now. With the original budget that we had put in front of us back in December, we had a $2.6 million hole that needed to be filled. And if you remember the graph, I could actually have it here, that I showed last month, I think it was, this one, that shows just how much wages and benefits consume. There's no way to think that we aren't going to fill that $2.6 million hole without affecting wages and benefits. So we had two choices when it comes to that. It's either, or there were two choices, I should put it that way. It's either pay people less or pay less people. And this board made the only choice that it could, and we are paying less people next year to the tune of about 10 people. Is that correct, Dr. Vela?
Next year?
Yeah, for next year.
Close.
Okay. And that kind of depends on who retires. What's that?
12.
Yeah, for next year. What that does, though, is it leaves in place the increases for everybody that's coming back. So 97% of the staff is coming back next year. And the way I figure this, the average increase in wages and benefits combined for the 97% of people that are coming back next year is somewhere over 7%, which is costing about $1.5 million in new money just to increase wages and benefits for the 97% who are coming back here next year.
With that, though, is contractual.
I know,
We have no control over that.
but I want to make sure I understand what we're voting on here and that we all understand this. So it's an additional $1.5 million that's going into increasing wages and benefits, and a lot of that is in the benefit column, which is, again,
Broken out, how much is salaries and how much of it is benefits of that 7% deal?
oh, I have it on a note somewhere. The wage increases average over everybody is around 3%, I think. And then the benefit increase is like 12 or 15. What was your question?
Contractual, you mean that it has to be union, and so really, right here, you can't control that.
Right.
And also that their pension contribution is set by Harrisburg, so we have no input into that number, which is one of the largest numbers in this increase right now, is the continuing increase of the piece.
That's one of the biggest numbers, yep.
Well, the 1,000 line instruction, is that the professional staff salary done on the estimated expenditures on the budget? Because it goes from basically 17,294 to 18.
There's not just one line where all professionals are listed. Because when you look at the budget, you've got special instruction, vocational instruction, pupil personnel. I mean, you've got all that, it's built into those numbers. So there's not one specific number in relationship to those salaries or regular wages. The majority of those are in your 121 line items.
I'm not picking on any particular class. I'm just looking at everything as an average here.
Well, you're right, you need to look at all that.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, that next year's budget, $1.5 million roughly is going into increasing wages and benefits. And I just want to point out 4 places that we're making that money available. The entire new tax increase, not just the part above the index that we needed permission for, but the entire increase is generating about half of that amount of money, $775,000. We are paying less people to the tune of $433,000 based on, that's the change made to that 1213 column between what we have in front of us now and what we originally got. We are not replacing roughly 25% of the textbooks, savings $166,000. And this one is really perplexing to me why we've done this, but we borrowed $6.8 million of new money, but our debt service for the next 8 years is actually lower. And that was done because we restructured our debt payments and pushed them out way out. But to actually lower the debt service for the next 8 years is effectively just pushing the responsibility for paying the debt onto the next generation, the kids that are here at this school now. So all those things combined are just over $1.5 million. So that's what we're doing to finance the increase in pay next year. So there are 2 reasons why I'm going to have to vote no on this budget. Number one is what we're doing with wages and benefits is just simply not sustainable, and next year is going to be even worse than this year. And then the other reason, of course, is that I don't think it was appropriate for us to go around the people, like you said last time, with skin in the game, people that have kids in the school, people who pay the taxes, to go around them and ask the state for permission rather than asking them for permission for this big tax increase. I do believe that people with skin in the game should have had a say. So this year rather than 2 years from now when there's another election. So. I'm incorrect in anything there, please let me know before we vote next week.
It's hard to say what you're incorrect or correct at, but you got to make a presentation and you got to do your homework, where we have no idea what your homework is.
I sure hope everyone is doing the homework. This is huge. I mean, this is not something we should be taking lightly.
I don't take this lightly, Dale, but, you know, a couple of years ago, I was the one that said you were the one that we were facing a financial tsunami, and that you were drinking a latte in your hammock, and that you just totally ignored, because I wanted to look at the budget future years ahead, because I knew this was coming. That's why I was one of those people. I was the only one that voted no,
Right.
because I wanted to build up a surplus to help them. The other meeting, you said, it's been raining for 4 years. Why the hell didn't you get us an umbrella?
But your answer to fix the problem is to go to taxpayers, and that's not my answer. I mean, obviously.
My answer, Dale, before I was on this board, was we should have modestly been raising taxes where you were lobbying for 0 increases. And that's why we have permanently damaged our situation. We are, and what you failed to mention to these people and to the press is if we would compare what we charge in millage compared to our peers around the county, Northern Lebanon School District is the best deal in the county.
Right.
And the 39th best deal in the state. And the last time I brought that up to you, you told me, I don't want to hear about it. We should be very proud that we live in a district that has the lowest taxes in the county.
Right.
If you go to Elko, you're going to pay more. You go to Anvil, you're going to pay more. You go to Lebanon, you're going to pay more. Palmyra, pay more. Cedar Crest, pay more. We're the best deal for farmers, the best deal for families, the best deal for homes. We have the lowest real estate tax, and not once did you say that in your presentation. And thank goodness we have Dr. Bell and his leadership team to guide us in with all the less money that we get in local taxes and still offer an education that I am very proud at the moment
So,
to have my kids get here. And I hope we can keep the train on the track so when they walk in a couple years, that their diploma will be as good as the graduating seniors that we have now. As related to the bond thing, I think that was an opportunity for us to reach out to our community and say, we still believe in education, and it takes money to make money, and we're investing and believe enough in our kids' futures that we're going to put money out and borrow it and invest it in new programs so these kids can graduate and hopefully get jobs in our communities. And wouldn't it be nice to have qualified graduates so employers that want to come in and see all this vacant land out here, build something like Tyco has in the past year and all the places out in Lickdale, that we have graduates ready to accept those jobs that they want to build here, which then would also help the real estate tax base. You know, over the years, and I don't know what this number is, but look at all the developments that have come into our area. And hopefully we have taken some of the burden off of our agricultural friends to even it out a little bit more, that it has gone a little bit more to the residential folks versus to the large farmers and the land bankers in our community. You know, you paint a very negative picture, and I get upset about that because I'm very proud to live here in Northern Lebanon and be part of what we have going on and being as frugal as we are with the taxpayers' money.
But you missed my entire point, Dave. And that
What was
is,
that?
we have this huge tax increase next year that's only generating half of the income that's needed to increase wages and benefits.
And that's why this board
So-
took the $2.6 million thing, and we sat around here, except for you, and cut and raised income taxes or real estate taxes, so we compromised to come up with the best that we could come up with this year. And I
Sure.
am proud of you guys for doing that.
Let's make sure we define what a cut is. The budget's still going up 3.5% next year.
And how much is that on track for?
I'm waiting to hear a solution.
Good chunk of it.
I've been, and I respect very much Dale, have for a long time. But you keep saying, we gotta do something. Tell us what. There's a lot of things we have to do, and I'm just not hearing any solutions, just pointing our fingers. So tell us what to do.
We can't keep seeing wages increase 7.5%. That it's out of our hands. Well, it's not really, for the next year, it's in you three guys' hands right now, because you're negotiating a new contract. And we'll all get part of that.
Close the school, get rid of half our teacher. I mean, I'm not hearing anything. I'm just saying, we can't do it, we can't do it. So what's your solution?
We did get there partway to a small part of the solution last time when we did those resolutions on changing the mandates, but that's a tiny part. But the point I'm trying to make is we cannot sustain these huge pay increases. And
So what do you do? We have these teachers.
we had some relief given to us last year for this year, but there's no such relief given for next year. And I'm a little disappointed in that.
Then say, make my class sizes bigger, do this, do that.
Well, we're forced to do that.
Well, then, that's what I want to hear you say. That's what I want to hear everybody else. I want them to hear you say that instead of standing up on a pedestal and saying, don't go and I want to do this. I want you to say, all right, I think we need to close the school. I think we need to increase our class size to 50. I want you to take some of the heat for some of the ideas that you're putting forth. You know what I mean? I mean, am I making...
Well, I hope I'm clear that I wish we wouldn't have to be increasing wages and benefits 7.5%.
Give me a solution. You know, put your head on it.
The solution isn't in our hands. That's the problem.
So what you're saying is it's our fault, but it's not in our hands.
It's not our fault. But if we approve this budget, which makes $1.5 million available to pay wages and benefits, you know, it's not too late. We could still have some kind of gift come back over the summer at some point, and our employees could come and say, you know, we don't need that increase. They could do that, but they have no incentive to do that once we vote yes.
And I guess we could have landowners too say, my taxes aren't enough, and you could write out an additional check when they pay their real estate taxes, right?
Suppose that could happen. What's that?
Why would we do that for kids?
Do what?
Pull out like that? I think at this point, you know, if we're saying it is out of our hands, this takes the wages, why do we need to that for education?
Well, what are we doing for kids that we are? I mean, are those things that I mentioned are good for kids?
Keeping qualified staff is good.
Well, we're trimming staff.
We have trimmed. That's the problem I see. We're trimming staff now, trimming staff next year.
Right.
What are we ever going to do to get back to where we probably need to be for the future, for our children that are younger that are coming up?
We're not. It's going to be gone.
And that's the sad thing about it. I think they've done a very, very good job, the administration has, in only the taxes only being this much. You know, they've done some incredible work to get to where we're at, but we're losing a lot of, you know, qualified people that have retired we're not replacing. We're losing them. We may never get them back, and that's my fear for the future. And so we have no options. The state has mandated retirement, and that's how much of that is part of that increase you're talking about. Teachers have contracts. Guess what? We abide by the contract.
You know, even if there was a true pay freeze for all the employees at Northern Lebanon for next year.
They've done their share last year.
Well, the administrators did a pay freeze.
Your opinion,
Nobody
they
else
haven't
did.
done their share,
But
I think they've
But
done
what
their
I'm
share.
saying, even if there was a pay freeze for everybody, if everybody came forward and said, you can pay us the same thing in 12-13 that we're getting paid now, there would still be an increase of almost 5% in the total package of wages and benefits.
That's not our fault.
And the budget would still go up like 2%, something like that, the total budget.
So what is the solution?
We got to talk about it, because 2/3 of our budget is consumed by wages and benefits.
In front of us, some ideas. What do you have?
I just
You
said
have
what
something in your mind because you keep talking about it.
Just lay it on the table. We just want to hear it.
Like I said, if our staff would come forward and say, we'll take a pay freeze for next year, take the same wage, that still allows benefits to go up, the total package is increasing almost 5%, it would be a step in the right direction.
If you were a staff member, would you be doing that?
You know, I thought about that, and I'm not in that position, but of course I wouldn't do it if nobody else would do it, or if I didn't have any pressure put on me to do it, which is why I'm bringing this up.
But the other
You're
side of
looking at a
that coin-
7.5% increase, and look at what we're doing to make that money available.
The other side of that coin is, you're right, you're not in a position to do that, but the other side of the coin is you pay a lot of taxes. Are you willing to write out a check to North Lebanon for more than what your real estate tax bill is?
And why would I do that? Because you took care of that for me.
Well, that's the exact same question you're asking the staff.
Yeah, I mean, according to your figures, we were proactive. We only had to raise taxes half as much as what we needed to cover the deficit you're claiming because of all the other actions that were taken. So I think we did a good job.
I mean, would you be willing to pay as much as what you would if your properties were on Elko?
They're not, and I really don't appreciate having what Elko or Anvil or Palmyra has done dictate what we have to do. We have to get our taxes up to their level just because they're not doing as good a job as we are.
But we're all in the same business. We're all in educating students. We're all playing by the same mandate, the same rules.
And we have a fantastic record, and where we are with taxes, we have all these teachers of the year and all that stuff that was in the Viking Voice and all those good things that are going on. So it's not all about money.
No, it's not all about money, but you know, money does pay a lot of bills in the world. It buys my groceries, my electric bill, everything.
Money also, where it is now, is leading education that has enabled all of this great things to happen.
But just get my point again. Increasing the biggest part of our budget by 7.5% is just flat out not sustainable. There is no way that tax increases, or even when the election year comes around here, it's just, we're not going to be able to make things work.
Well,
And
it's contractual. We can't change it now. The contracts are coming up, and the MLEA is intimately aware of what the financial straits are for this district next year. They are aware, we've told here, and the press should already know, if everything stays equal next year going into the 13-14 budget period, we are going to be $850,000 in the hole if we just raise it to the SAW. No, if we raise it about to where we raised it this year. And we only raise it, if we raise it to the SAW, we're going to be about 1.2 million in the hole. And a lot of that is PCER's increase. Yeah, and there is no money. So you're right. I mean, I agree with you.
plus the $1 million that we borrowed that we
You
won't have next
either
year.
cut staff, or you cut programs, or you do a combination. And if something doesn't change in Harrisburg between now and the budget period for next year, that's exactly where we're going to be. And we have no control over it.
Well, we know where we're
have to
going to
have a
be.
balanced budget.
We know where we're going to be. It's not going to be a surprise next year.
Of the governor's budget, and you're right, it is unsustainable, and it's starting to hit already. $50 million of his budget is for schools that are, what's the word he uses? Distressed. And so eventually, it would be surprising to me if 500 of the 500 school districts become distressed, if the governor isn't going to support public education in this state.
Well, it's a perplexing problem, and I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on what's happening with this budget for next year. So, and I remember you saying, Dan, a meeting or so ago, I think it was the CTC or the IU or somebody, you said a 5% increase is not reasonable at this time, and I agree with that. Neither is a 7.5% increase.
I have full confidence in David and DNC. They will do their best in their committee to work with the teachers to do what they can do. Now, obviously, like you said, we here can't do anything about it. It's a contractual issue. And so I have full confidence that they will do the best that they can do. And I think we need to trust them for that. And you really upset about the fact,
yeah, it is upsetting, but talking about it and not having solutions isn't helpful.
I really think we're in the time to talk about it needs to be for how many months, but at some point, I think as a board, we have to come together and unify. Because I think we're really starting to be a divided board, and even if it's, I just worry about that, because in these times more than ever, I think we have to say, we are doing the best we can, and this is the best option that we have.
Just for the record, last year I was opposed to the budget all the way up right to the end, and then I came around, but I don't see that happening this year.
Okay, item D, any more?
Well,
There we go.
Yeah,
All right, item Q. Is that the medication one? There's two of them,
Yes,
15 and 8, 15 and Independence Day 15 and 8.
no, that one you've already seen. That's the final adoption. The medication policies and such, it has means are and S, those are the tentatives. Policies, just like curriculum, you vote on once as a tentative, and then the next time you vote on as a final.
Okay. Q, R,
I had a when I was reading through I forget which one. If somebody brings in Tylenol, they could take it to the nurse, they would be suspended for 3 days, something like that, if they did not?
You need to actually take any of the medication over the counter or prescription into the nurse's office to identify that it's there. There can be special permission given, such as like an asthma inhaler, where someone needs to hold it. However, we just need to make sure that everybody clearly identifies what needs to be done. These policies accurately reflect what we have in the Pennsylvania School Code and have been reviewed by the solicitor.
obviously.
Well, I just hate to see, sometimes there's things that are in these policies that common sense says, well, to suspend somebody for 3 days for an oversight of something, is there, I just want to make sure that was, okay.
Are they in a planner?
The policies in the planner?
I mean, but they're.
It's identified any medication policy is identified in the planner. Not all the policies, but what
Right.
needs to be done.
My point is that every student is informed.
Is aware
is
of
familiar
that.
what our policies and regulations are,
Regardless of what it is, they need to bring it to the nurse.
pretty much.
Good.
To explain the FYI or just
The FYI really is positions that were decreased. You don't really vote on those. It's just for an FYI for you. Positions that were eliminated and the positions then that were filled. And it would be, Glenn, during that time, for the remainder of the year after we talked to the association, some of those were filled with long-term subs. That was the process for the year. But now we have people that positions are gone, and then they'll be filling these positions that actually were open. So you'll see, basically, 8 positions have been shrunk to 4.
And I have no issue with that. I was just under the impression that we weren't having a full.
That's kind of what with our, anybody had any questions on that? No? Okay. I'm done.
Morgan, I apologize, I didn't give you an opportunity to give a report. You usually come into the second meeting, so you threw me off my normal.
Because she'll be graduating.
Yeah, I realize. Okay, I just wanted to give you an opportunity.
Or you just go, I read your tomorrow.
How about a weather report? I'm interested in a weather report.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't rain.
I have a comment that there was last night's baccalaureate service was the nicest baccalaureate service I've ever seen.
Excellent music, very, very
It was
good.
just very, very, very well done, and you worked hard on it, and congratulations, and thank you.
So thank you for your service here, we enjoyed working with you these last year. Do you know who your predecessor is going to be?
Her name is Megan Risco, and she'll be a junior.
Okay.
Next year.
Thanks again.
And I want to thank you for coming down every month and just keeping me updated with what's going on and putting up with everything I had to say with you. And you always smile, even though it didn't really matter sometimes. She plays the system well. And even when she got called in and Channel 8 News was there to take a picture and say, what should we do with our locker rooms? So I want to thank you for doing that, everything that you've done over the years and that type of thing. And I'm sure tomorrow night's going to be a huge success and just a stepping stone of what your future is. Only a beginning, not an ending. So thanks again for everything you've done for us as a district.
Thank you. This is a great opportunity, and I've enjoyed these past 2 years, so thank you.
Programs, it's good.
Any questions on item A? And that would be for final service next time. Item B. Item B, and I'm assuming the book is over there on the shelf.
What class is that for?
Comparative religions?
Item E. I'm not familiar with Mr. Lee, I just need a separate line item.
Evidently we had it missed, or it wasn't.
He was missed on the list of
It
the.
wasn't, it was something with the graduation requirements that were not accurate at the time, but he's met all those needs.
Item F, and hopefully you'll kind of review the attachment for that. Happy to see Lindsay coming in as our soccer coach, I don't know if that's for the review or for, that's great. Item G and item H were also included in those attachments, and I noted that there was no increase in salary for anybody. I'm assuming those funds are vital and necessary. Just function of another number. That would be it.
Thank you. Dale, properties and service?
Questions on item A? Anything on item B?
I have a question. What happens to the van? Does that go up to auction, or, I mean, the $500, is it just given to, somebody just says, I'll give you $500, or, I don't want the van, but I'm just asking. I was just kind of curious as far as what would be the way that we get the most money out of this thing.
The board has adopted about 8 different opportunities / options that we follow when we dispose of any equipment. It will follow one of those things. It goes from outright sale to salvage to donation, anything, anywhere along that way. So we'll follow the policy on that.
Okay.
But they do have a good deal for you.
Bring a couple tires with it.
We will be having an executive session to discuss 2 matters. One's a personnel issue and another is a contractual issue. So thank you for attending our meeting tonight.